Good morning and welcome back to Late Start Show. We're here with baseball player, head varsity debate captain, and senior Will Allen. How are you, Will?
I'm doing good, Charlie. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
No, it's great to have you on the show. You're a senior who's obviously excelling in academics, speech and debate, baseball. Kind of tell us how you first got to university school and what your initial impressions were.
My journey started kind of late in my eighth grade year. I was at Chagrin. I didn't know a whole lot about US. I had some classmates who had come to US. Um, was interested, came to a shadow day, and I just kind of fell in love. I was really lucky. I shadowed Heath, who was great, one of the best guys that you could have shadowed for sure. And I fell in love from there on. Finished the application process and was really excited to be able to come here. So yeah.
When you first started at US, how did those first days go? I know from my perspective, transitioning from big public school to smaller private school has some transition periods. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, I think it was kind of hard for me at first, day to day. I think that there were a few things that I did that really helped me. Um, Freshman year, my best friend was in my sponsor group. He actually, I mean, you guys weren't up here yet, but he came in from the UK, from England, and I hit it off with him right away. Actually, he then left after freshman year, but that was a real big thing that helped me. But I think it was definitely hard. Um, Once I started doing things that I loved, like playing baseball, though, interacting with upperclassmen a little bit more, I think it made it a lot easier for sure.
And you transferred to US after attending Chagrin. So how did kind of that transition go more academically?
Yeah. Academically, it was challenging. Chagrin, I'd never really I'd never even done homework at my house. I had kind of been that kid that always had gotten everything done at school, never had to worry about it, never studied. And freshman year was definitely a wake up call. I think especially one class in particular, honors math three with Mr. Strachan. Um, Probably the hardest class that I've ever taken, still ever taken, and very tough transition. Learning how to study, learning how to get my homework done, meet with teachers, stuff like that was definitely a challenge.
And you're now involved in a lot of clubs and sports. When you first came here, what were some of those clubs and things, activities that you got into?
Yeah, so I think I've sort of branched out a little bit more as the years have gone on, which has been good. I've seen kind of what communities I want to put more time into. But that first year, I joined speech and debate as soon as I could, and baseball were pretty much my two big things. And I think that those are really great because, like I mentioned earlier, upperclassmen in both of those activities were just awesome. Guys were so nice, um, understanding. But those are the two main things that I first got started with freshman year, and I think that that was a great place to, make friendships. And then eventually I've joined some other clubs and initiatives and stuff like that. But I think those are the two main things I did freshman year.
Over the years, who's been your favorite teacher or mentor kind of at US, and why did you really just connect with them so well?
Yeah, so I think my favorite teacher that I've had is no longer here. Mr. Heath, Mr. George Heath was my micro teacher sophomore year, and I really appreciate about US is all the teachers are like scholars in their field. And Mr. Heath was a guy who had no teaching background, but a wealth of knowledge in business. And for microeconomics, which is basically just a business class, every lesson he would give at least one anecdote, one story, something funny. And I think he really helped me a lot too because sophomore year was also a difficult year. I think still getting used to US, and he'd be open to giving me extensions, open to talking through projects, stuff like that. So I think Mr. Heath was a real instrumental figure in sort of my academic growth, but also a great guy to see every day, great teacher to have every day. So yeah.
You're also a national merit semifinalist, which is super impressive. Congrats. What study habits or kind of strategies really got you through? Obviously, you talked about transition. That was pretty hard. But what really kind of got you through that period?
Yeah. So honestly, I did not do much studying before the PSAT. I'd been lucky where at Chagrin through middle school, I had been forced to take at public school, you have to take a lot more standardized tests. So I think my understanding of standardized tests was pretty good, which very much helped me. I'd taken the PSAT in eighth, ninth, 10th grade. But I think I had at that point I had taken some practice SATs, trying to get prepared for the SAT more so than the PSAT. So I think that those probably helped me. But other than that, I think it was just the background knowledge on standardized testing that was very helpful for me throughout that process.
And a lot of people place a lot of pressure and importance on those standardized tests. What do you think is the importance of kind of broadening a skill set and not just focusing on testing, but being able to like have social skills and emotional IQ?
Yeah, I think that that is the most important thing, and something that I've really loved about US is like being in a lot of different types of communities, like baseball, debate, being in very difficult classes, even playing an instrument in the orchestra. Um, as a senior, I've had to do a lot of reflecting for like college applications and stuff, writing about a lot of essays, and that's really a through line what Jack mentioned, like interacting with a lot of different types of people who have a lot of different goals. And I think one thing at US is everybody has something that they like really love to do and they're really good at doing. And I think that yeah, sometimes we get a little caught up in, how intelligent are you? And I think it's more important to how can you interact with others because that's really what matters at the end of the day to me. So, yeah, I think that's super important.
And then balancing, like you talked about, sports, debate, academics, orchestra can be intense. How do you manage your time between practices, tournaments, homework? How do you do it?
Yeah. Well, if there are any underclassmen listening, I'd say my number one tip is utilize your time during the school day. I've had a study hall maybe 5 out of my 8 semesters at US. I haven't had it for various reasons. I think sophomore year, junior year. But when I do have a study hall, you have to make the most of it. And it's only like this year as well, where second lunch now I'm actually having fun during second lunch. The past 3 years I've been doing homework stuff like that. Um, and then I'd say just make sure that you understand how much work you have when you go home every night. Because sometimes all everybody has tough nights where they're like they can't get their work done. But I think if you have a good idea of how you need to manage your time each individual night, I think that's super important. Staying on top of things, future assignments, stuff like that is those are probably my biggest takeaways and keys to success.
For a lot of people, family is really the largest supporter of kind of everything you do, whether it's obviously when you're a lower classman, getting you to different places, or kind of when you're an upperclassman, just helping you through some of that college application and just getting you through the day to day. How has kind of your parents or your siblings kind of just really pushed you and like helped you out?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I didn't start driving, for example, until like February of my sophomore year. So my parents made a lot of sacrifices to get me to US in the first place, and I'm super thankful for that. I couldn't have done it without them. Um, and then also, yeah, I mean, they're my biggest supporters and everything. Like I've been going through the college writing process. I think one of my essays I rewrote about 10 times, and I think my mom probably read 8 or 9 of those versions. Could not be more thankful for like that type of support. And then I think also it's just trying to spend time with them on the weekends is really important because if you're spending a lot of time just by yourself, stuff like that, it can get difficult when you have a lot of work to do, a lot of pressure. So like a lot of Sundays, I try and spend a lot of time with my family. I'll shout out my grandma and grandpa, who I'm lucky enough to live 5 minutes away from. Whenever I have free Saturdays, I go over and watch football for 8 hours on a Saturday. So I think, yeah, they've been there supporting me every step along the way, but then also making sure that I'm happy, I'm succeeding, stuff like that. So I'm definitely grateful for them.
Switching to sports, how did you kind of first get into baseball? What position do you usually play, and what do you really kind of enjoy about the game?
Yeah. So I started playing baseball when I was, T-ball, like 4 or 5 years old. It was something that my mom's side of the family really loved. My grandpa has been a Cleveland Indians/Guardians fan for as long as time. He likes to say he was born 1949, the year after the then Indians won their last World Series. So he's always been a big baseball guy. So I started playing, and I just played with youth organizations like the Chagrin Falls Tigers baseball organization throughout. And I think what I really appreciate about baseball, and Jack would talk to this too, is um, just how much time we spend with one another, I'd say, and the people that are on like the US team or on my summer team. I love like it's gonna sound cliche, but I love going to battle with the guys. And it doesn't matter like what role you play. It's just so fun to be a part of something that's bigger than you. And that's honestly baseball's my way of branching out and doing that, I think.
And last year was pretty sweet. We had a historic run going to the state finals for the first time. And our, like you mentioned, our team culture was pretty special. From your perspective, what made our team and continues to make the baseball program such a strong culture program?
Yeah, so I think it starts with a few things. I think the one thing that's always stood out to me is from freshman year, we've lost in the playoffs, and within a month, we've been lifting again, or getting guys here over the summer to throw with each other, to hit with each other. And when your best friends are playing baseball with you, it's just going to be so much more fun, so much more enjoyable. And from my perspective, I mean, as someone who honestly didn't play very much, I can say that like the little things very much matter. Um, I would sit at the end of the dugout with the same guys every game in the same spot. We would, something good would happen. We'd all get back in the same spot in the dugout, same cheers. Um, every time an inning ended, everybody gets up, goes out, gives high fives, picks up the guy who did something wrong, or congratulates the guy who did something amazing, made a great catch. And I think that that's really where our season started and it ended, and why we were so successful. I mean, we were never the team with the most firepower, if you will, but we were the team that supported one another. And yeah, I think that's why we were so successful.
Now let's talk about speech and debate. How do you first become interested in speech and debate, and what made you really want to join the team?
Yeah, so speech and debate, I think I started in middle school. So I started in seventh grade at Chagrin Schools. My mom pushed me to join the team, as most speech and debate kids are, their parents pushing them to join. Um, and I really enjoyed this experience through middle school. It's a whole different animal, high school debate versus middle school. But I was kind of just pushed to join the team because it was something that I really enjoyed. Um, I knew it would look good on a college application, I won't lie. But I think what's made me stick with it more so than anything is just like the pursuit of success, and then as well as, loving the people that I do it with, which I think is super important, having a lot of great friends in the activity and stuff like that.
And as a head captain of the debate team, which is a very successful debate team here, how do you motivate or help your teammates when preparing for debates, and what does your role really entail as captain?
Yeah, so I think debate is super unique in that like practice can look like a lot like it's not like you're just going to go to practice. Like for baseball, we go to practice and you're going to hit, you're going to field, you're going to pitch. Basically, that's not always true. But for debate, you can go and you can evaluate so many different weaknesses. If you think your arguments are weak, you can work on your arguments. If you think a certain speech that you're giving, because there's certain set speeches, if you think a certain speech that you're giving is not getting your point across to the judge, you can redo those. And I think it's coming to debate every day with the knowledge of how do I get better today? What went well? Because we have tournaments every weekend. What went well last weekend? What do I think is going to be hard this weekend? So I think my role is trying to help every individual person find their biggest weakness from the last weekend, the last tournament, their arguments, something like that, and help them work on that. And yeah, I think that's the best path forward for them. So yeah.
No, what's been kind of a defining moment throughout your speech and debate career so far? Maybe kind of a round you're proud of or tournament you're proud of. Obviously, this year you're starting really, really successfully. So whether or not it's throughout your entire speech and debate career, just this year, what's something you can really remember?
Yeah, so I didn't put as much effort into debate as I probably should have my freshman and sophomore years. I got a little bit bogged down in that. Debate is unique because as a freshman, you're competing against seniors immediately. It's not like there's a varsity and a JV bracket. Um, so then junior year was kind of a turning point where I had to decide if I wanted to put my energy into it. And the first few tournaments of the year, my partner and I would go 2-2. We'd win 2 debates, lose 2 debates almost every time. And then last year we ended up qualifying for the state tournament. And in order to reach the playoffs, if you will, the tournament of the state tournament, you need to have a 4-2 record in 6 rounds. And my partner and I unknowingly had won all 4 of our first rounds. So we had basically qualified for the playoffs of the tournament, if you will, as fast as you could, which was really cool. And when we learned that, we were super excited, especially as a team that hadn't seen much success earlier in the year. And now we've just built on that. And I think, yeah, that was probably my most proud moment, was just the growth over my junior year. Super exciting. And it was all time and effort, which is the bottom line.
And like you said, a lot of people, when they think of speech and debate, it's like, oh, well, all those kids, just their parents told them to do it. But what would you tell a kid who, to get them excited about doing speech and debate and to join themselves?
Yeah, so I think speech and debate it's a super unique activity, and a lot of people who don't do it can't quite feel why it's so unique until they do it. So for example, there are 30 teams roughly and across maybe 6 or 8 schools in the Cleveland area, 30 debate teams, so 30 partnerships. So the event I do is public forum debate. It's 2-on-2. So every weekend we go and we see the same teams who are arguing, roughly the same things every weekend. But we spend 10 hours a day at a tournament. So this weekend we're going to Hawken, for example. And the best part is we debate 4 times for 45 minutes. You can do the math. A lot of that time, the rest of that time, is spent with your friends, with your guys. And when you're like me, and your partner for debate is one of your best friends, it's so fun to just go and sit there and just talk. And this weekend we'll probably, at Hawken, the Hawken tournament, usually we end up playing spike ball, or there's a football or something, and you're seeing the same people from other schools every week, interacting with them, becoming friends with them. And I think that's why debate has really become special to me, is just the relationships. It's so much time spent with other people, and you really do grow close to them. And I think the upperclassmen that I've done it with the past few years are honestly the closest relationships I've had with kids in the grade ahead of me. I think that's important.
Another thing that you're involved with is the student investment committee. What has your role kind of been on the team throughout the years? And now that you're a senior and you're the treasurer, what is that opportunity really given to you?
Yeah, so I actually did not start on the student investment committee in 10th grade like most people do. There was an opening and I applied for it. So I only started last year as a junior. But I think student investment committee is probably the most underrated opportunity that we have at US. For those of you who don't know, the Student Investment Committee is currently overseeing upwards of $540,000 in investments right now, that started back in 2010, I believe. So it started with US basically giving us $10,000 a year. We no longer need the $10,000 a year because we're making
$80,000 a year in cash.
$70,000 to $80,000 a year in net profit, which is pretty crazy. So now I think it's just about, I think for the leadership for the seniors this year, it's been about what does that look like in the future? Because once that number reaches $1 million, we have a lot of power as an investment committee. And I think it's a super cool opportunity. I've loved pitching stocks. I've loved talking about stocks. I've loved spending time with, the 8 other sophomores, juniors, and seniors. And I think it's been a super cool, underrated opportunity. And I'm excited to see what it brings in the future, really, because at some point, we'd love to give the money back. We'd love to find a way to do something unique with it because it is an impactful amount of money. But yeah, super cool and unique opportunity for sure.
And looking back across all of these platforms that you've been able to lead and have really cool accomplishments, what are you most proud of, whether that's in academics, sports, debate, or anything else?
Yeah, I think what I've been most proud of is my ability to connect with a lot of different types of people who have a lot of different motivations. I think for all 4 of my years, I've been the only kid on baseball and speech and debate, for example. Both programs are about 40 to 50 kids, the only person on both. And I think the type of kid who wants to, compete at the varsity level on a state championship caliber team in baseball is often very different from the kid who wants to compete on one of the best debate teams in Ohio. Or, the kid who wants to focus on business initiatives and student investment is probably different from the kid who wants to play cello in the orchestra. So I think as I've grown, I've grown to really appreciate that everyone around me is doing something that they love. And I want to try and understand, what really pushes them to get up in the morning, and why do they enjoy that unique thing. And I think being able to branch out, have relationships with people who are very different from you, and very different from the other people you're interacting with is super, super important. And I'm proud of that I've been able to do that, pursue a lot of different activities and meet a lot of different people.
As your senior year progresses, is there anything that you still want to achieve or experience before graduation? Is there any goal that kind of is on your to-do list that you kind of want to check off?
Yeah. So I think that's tough. I think for one, I would love to have another deep run in the playoffs for baseball. I think that was like such a special experience. Our season was extended 3, 4, 5 weeks. Some of the best moments that I had were with the guys on the baseball field. So that would be one. And then in terms of like debate, I would obviously love to. Last year, our captains for public forum debate, the event that I and Charlie do, were state runner-ups in their event. The event would have like 250, 300 teams across Ohio. They were the second place team. I would love to avenge them and bring home a state championship, which would be pretty cool. But other than that, I just hope as a senior that I feel confident about where I'm going next year, right? Stuff like that. But overall, yeah, I'm pretty happy with what my experience has been at US. And I think just closing out on a few of those things would be pretty cool.
Let's go to that college point. What colleges are you kind of considering? What do you really want to likely kind of study? And do you have a dream kind of major or career path in mind?
Yeah, so being an Anderson Scholar in entrepreneurship as well, I've been lucky enough to take a lot of like business related classes. So I think for now, I'm hoping to study economics, and then pursue probably a minor in something business finance related or maybe like data science, data analytics related. Um, Not exactly sure what I want to turn that into career wise yet. If I get the finance bug once I'm in school, maybe I'll go down that route. But other than that, I would find work as an economist pretty interesting. And I think a lot of the things that I learn about in debate would be very applicable to that. In terms of schools, I am not applying to like 24 schools like some of my classmates are. I'll probably apply to around 10. A lot of them are larger public schools. My favorite school right now is the University of Virginia. And then, there's also a bunch of great options. I'm applying to a few schools in California, a few of the University of California schools. And then both Miami University and Oxford and Ohio State are great options in state as well and provide countless opportunities. So I'm really lucky to have those as options as well. But yeah, I mean, everybody says, there's a good chance it doesn't end up how you think it's going to end up, but it'll work out in the end. And I'm hoping that they're right.
Yeah, well, going off the senior speech we heard today about looking back on our time at US and how fast it goes, I'm sure you've reflected a little bit on that, but reflecting further, what does university school mean to you personally now that you've fully made that transition? You've been in our community for now 4 years. What does US mean to you?
Yeah, I think US means a lot to me. I This weekend we had our like big fall open house, and I was lucky enough to sit on the student panel, talking to like 150 parents. And one of the parents asked the panel what they thought success meant. And I said that I thought success to me was that every day I wake up and I'm super excited to come to school. That hasn't been something that's always been true, but I'm excited to come to school. I'm excited to do what I'm doing after school. Not always excited for the homework, like I said the other day, but I'm excited to be at US, and I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Finally, one of the questions that we always ask all of our guests is what is their why? So, what motivates you to really kind of get out of bed, tackle a super busy schedule, get better, and still get motivated to do even more the next day? So, Will, what is your why?
Yeah, I think my why, I think you kind of said it in part of your question, but I think my why is to be a little bit better at everything you do every day. And sometimes it's easier to, it's more quantifiable to see how you're getting better, like your grades go up a little bit. Um, but I think just trying to be a little bit of a better person every day, try and focus on something that you love a little bit more every day. I think like Jack was talking about with the senior speech, a big theme in that was focus on what you enjoy. And I think I'm in the pursuit to find what I love to do and get better at what I love to do and be the best version of myself in whatever way I might want to become the best version of myself in. Um, but yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Well, Will, it's been great having you on the show today. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your insights and experiences and stories. And to our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll hope you'll join us next Wednesday for the next episode of Late Start Show. Thank you, Will.
Yep. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.